Mr. President, please stop talking about me.
Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi.
I called you out for lying. Uhuru trashes Ruto's death claim, asks DP to leave him alone.
Stop polarizing the country. Raila tells Ruto to stop making inflammatory statements as election date nears.
Ready for the polls. IEBC pledges transparency in the August polls as it shifts its operations to Bomas Tallying Center.
Kunao tunawalipa wateremsha na wanaficha na tumejua ni wapi. Kwa hivyo tutawachukulia hatua.
Are traders hoarding unga? Maize flour shortage hits the country as government warns millers. All right, welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Njoki Shege. Now, the verbal exchange between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto continued, with the head of state asking his number two to leave him out of the campaigns.
Kenyatta, who spoke during the commissioning of the Nairobi Expressway, dismissed Ruto's alleged death plot, terming the claims lies and inflammatory. The president urged Kenyans to maintain peace and participate in the August 9th polls peacefully.
Kuambia watu nataka kuua. Si mumenitusi karibu miaka 3. Kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti. Si nilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu, nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima, twende nyumbani pamoja. Shida iko wapi? Si dunia itaendelea. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, let us be calm. Let us do the right thing. Let us tell Kenyans what we shall do for them, not what we expect them and what we think of others.
At the same time, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has called on the political class to tame their tongues, saying some of the utterances being made in public are demeaning and inflammatory.
Nyeri Catholic Archbishop Anthony Muheria has also called on the IEBC to deliver a free, fair and credible election, while also urging the political formations to prepare to abide by the election outcome.
8 days to the general elections, the Conference of Catholic Bishops has expressed concerns over utterances by the political class that they say could plunge the nation into chaos.
May we desist. This is a gift to Kenya. Give Kenya peace by giving them peaceful messages, by utterances that are mature and that are focused on building a Kenya that we desire.
At the same time, the bishops have called on the IEBC to deliver a free, fair and credible election while urging Kenyans to reject incitement to violence.
We citizens cannot allow ourselves to be abused or used or to be misdirected. We are mature now as a country. Let us take hold of our country and of peace and decide we make a resolve. We will not let anyone move us against one another or destroy the gift of peace. It is not worth, none of the candidates is worth destroying the peace of this country.
And in Nairobi, several women leaders drawn from different women rights groups have called for the cessation of verbal attacks between politicians, saying women and children suffer the most in the event of conflict.
And we urge everyone, especially our political leaders, to play their part in promoting peaceful elections. Our hearts go out to those amongst us who are vulnerable, who don't know where the next meal will come from, who live in locations and zones where they do not feel safe.
Martin Munene, Citizen TV.
At the same time, the countdown to next week's general election got underway in earnest, shifting its operations to the National Tallying Center at the Bomas of Kenya.
The electoral body opened 2 centers, the National Election Call Center and the Media Center, to help the IEBC communicate with the country and its officers in the run-up to the election. And as Brenda Wanga reports, the IEBC says the elections will be carried out in a transparent manner.
With just a few days to go to the general election, the IEBC has set the ball rolling by setting up infrastructure at the NAF Center of the National Tallying Center. Today, the commissioners, led by their chairperson and the CEO, officially launched a media center and a call center stationed at the Bomas of Kenya. They will become operational Monday. The media center will be used by the members of the Fourth Estate during the election, while the call center is aimed at ensuring communication between the IEBC officials at Bomas and its officers across the country is smooth.
There'll be a line that will be given to our personnel, our staff in the field, so that they can quickly communicate in case of anything that is happening. And at the same time, the Commission is able to trace and to find out if everything is well in the field.
We are in conversations on enhancing media work in covering elections. It's the first time in history that this is happening, and I hope it's a tradition that's going to move forward. Our coming together with IEBC does not in any way mean that media is doing PR for IEBC. It's just the realization that when we work together, it turns out better for the people of Kenya.
The Commission, keen on inspiring confidence in its operations, maintains that it will not leave any room for vagueness as it prepares to conduct the elections.
We have been challenged more than ever before to be very, very transparent and open in terms of the way we conduct our election.
And we look forward to having a successful election because of the transparency measures the Commission has put in place.
IEBC has been keen on ensuring that the election results transmission is done in a manner that is open, not just for the IEBC officials, but for party agents, civil society, the media, and the general public. In line with its promise to conduct a transparent exercise, the IEBC will be using this media center to update the public on every step as the country prepares for the general election next week. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
On to politics then. The Kenya Kwanza Alliance campaigned in Western Kenya today, with Deputy President William Ruto cautioning President Uhuru Kenyatta against what he termed tampering with the August 9th general election.
Ruto claimed the president is holding night meetings with members of the provincial administration in a plot to subvert the elections. Sam Ogina reports.
As the clock winds down to barely a week to the elections, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance campaigned in Western Kenya today, with stops in Aldai, Hamisi in Vihiga, Kitale Town and Kakamega. The alliance was blocked from accessing Kakamega's Buhungu Stadium and instead staged their rally outside the stadium.
I am telling you, miti yote inateleza. Hata wakifunga hii uwanja, hii mkutano inaendelea. Na mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa Kakamega, ukiona mambo kama haya, ujue mtu ameshatia maji kwa tumbo.
Siku 8 zimebaki kwenda nyumbani. Bwana Oparanya, unadanganya kutufunjia kiwanja. I told Wasiali yesterday, a rally outside Buhungu is a rally in Buhungu. And we are having a rally outside Buhungu, which is a rally in Buhungu.
Mr. President, what is the fear? You public officers, what is the fear? When a president of the country in his twilight days, siku zikiisha, anasimama anasema kwamba nyinyi wa Kenya, ikifika tarehe 9 mtatambua mimi ndio president. Mr. President, for 9.5 years you have been president. We know you have been president. Ni nini kinakukera na wewe unaenda nyumbani?
Deputy President William Ruto sustained his exchange with President Uhuru Kenyatta, accusing the president of using state administrators as Azimio campaign agents.
Lakini tafadhali rais, musitumie machief na wafanyikazi wa serikali kuvuruga uchaguzi wa Kenya. Kwa sababu leo kuna mikutano ya usiku, kuna mikutano ya machief, kuna mikutano ya wafanyikazi wa serikali na wanalazimishwa ili kuhujumu, ili kuharibu, ili kuvuruga uchaguzi tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8.
The deputy president accused President Kenyatta of weaponizing state agencies to humiliate him and his supporters.
My friend, Mr. President, sisi ndio tulikusaidia upende usipende. Wewe umetutesa miaka 5. Umetuangaisha. Umetusukumia DCI, ametuangaisha. Umeangaisha wale marafiki zangu wote. Bwana Rais, tunakuomba kwa heshima. Sisi ni watu wangwana. We have no problem with you. Tunataka uende nyumbani upumzike polepole, hatuna shida na wewe.
The Kenya Kwanza leaders cautioned chiefs and county commissioners against being used to fight political battles.
Nyinyi machief, musikubali watu ambao wanaenda nyumbani in the next 1 week kuharibu kazi zenu. Musikubali kutumiwa kuharibu uchaguzi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Hakuna mtu atawadhulumu, na hata hawa watu wakiwafuta kazi, mimi nawaahidi tarehe 10 tutawarudisha kazi na tuwapatie promotion.
The alliance rallied their supporters to come out in large numbers on election day.
Mimi nataka kuwaomba, tafadhali tufanye uchaguzi wa amani. Mimi nahakikishia jamii zote ambazo zinaishi hapa Kakamega, sisi hatutabagua jamii yoyote wakati huu wa kura.
We are interested in peace. We want a peaceful Kenya before and after elections. We want a peaceful transition. Hatutaki maneno ya furugu. Kenya ni yetu sisi wote, tusikue na furugu sana sana ambayo iko manufactured na watu ambao wako katika serikali.
Despite being denied access to Buhungu Stadium, the Kenya Kwanza Brigade brought Kakamega town to a standstill. DP Ruto takes his presidential campaign to Uasin Gishu and Baringo counties on Monday. Sam Ogina, Citizen TV in Kakamega town.
At the same time, Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga has told his UDA presidential candidate William Ruto to stop polarizing the country and instead focus on his agenda for Kenyans.
Addressing campaign rallies in Nandi Hills and Eldoret, he claimed Ruto is running a campaign of intimidating and blackmailing voters who are not backing his bid. Stephen Letor reports from Eldoret.
Sunday, Azimio won Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua campaigned in Ruto's staff of Nandi and Uasin Gishu, addressing rallies in Nandi Hills and Ruto's home constituency of Tarbo. Odinga, while in Nandi and Eldoret, called on unity ahead of the polls, but accused his opponent and UDA candidate William Ruto of running what he termed dangerous and divisive campaigns.
Team hii Azimio imekuja Eldoret. Nataka kupitisha Azimio ya Eldoret. The Eldoret resolution. Hapa. Kusema ya kwamba Eldoret ni Kenya. Na kila Mkenya ako na haki ya kuja na kuishi hapa Eldoret. Na kusema na kufanya chochote bila anavyotaka, bila kutisha na mtu yoyote.
Odinga, while addressing a well-attended rally in Uruma Grounds, Tarbo constituency, assured locals that the election will be peaceful.
Kutoka siku ya leo mpaka tarehe 9 mpaka siku ile ya kubeba Biblia, Uhuru Kenyatta yuko in charge. Baada ya Uhuru kutoka namna hii, kama baba anabeba Biblia, mimi Raila Amolo kesho, hello, keshoe hakuna nyafu tena.
Kenya ni yetu sisi zote. Kenya ni yetu sisi zote. Kenya ni yetu. Kenya ni yetu sisi. Tusitishwe na msitishwe.
Sisi Wazimio ni watu ya kupenda amani. Tunataka Wakenya waishi pamoja kwa amani. Tunataka Wakenya watengamane. Kila mtu aishi popote.
Election ikifika tunasikia Eldoret ndio ina shida. Hatutaki hiyo label tena.
Odinga's running mate Martha Karua on her part accused Ruto of running propaganda-filled campaign, saying Ruto's sentiments on safety of his family was cheap propaganda aimed at gaining political sympathy.
Mimi namuomba, kama unahofia maisha ya yeyote kwa nyumba yako, tafadhali wapatie askari wa kutosha, na kama hawatoshi, wewe bado ni umeajiriwa na serikali ya Kenya, uliza uongezewe.
Watu wanajua kiti imeenda. Sasa makasiriko imeingia. Sasa mtu akijaribu kusema kutakuwa mauaji. This is cheap propaganda politics, seeking sympathy to overturn the tide of opinion.
Yeye mwenyewe amekosa heshima kwa rais. Kulikuwa na wanaume wengi katika nchi ya Kenya ambao wangekuwa makamu wa rais, lakini ile heshima rais alikuwa nayo akampatia hiyo kiti.
Odinga asked the Eldoret and Nandi voters to reject what he described as a tainted ticket of his opponents.
We are running against convicted thieves. Convicted thieves. He's convicted. He says he's going to appeal. But as things stand today, he's convicted. Guilty as charged. Sivyo? Kwa hivyo hawa watu hawezi kuleta mabadiliko.
Akasema msipande mahindi. Alisema msipande mahindi, panda obakato. Alisema mulifanya agreement na serikali ndio mupande mahindi. Ni ajabu saa hii yeye analia, anasema ati yako na hasira, watu iko na njaa, iko na tabu, na yeye ni tabu number 1.
Odinga said he will resolve the agriculture shortfall for the North Rift farmers.
Na baba amesema akishaingia ajenda yake ya kwanza ni kuteremsha cost ya kulima.
Odinga was also endorsed by world athletic champion Ezekiel Kemboi.
Mimi nimekuja hapa kama last born wa baba. Kwa majina naitwa Ezekiel Kemboi Amolo. Asa mkiona niko hapa, masuala ya vijana itashughulikia.
Mimi nafikiri wengi wenu mnanijua. Naitwa Daktari David Mwole Kimayo, Inspector General wa kwanza katika taifa la Kenya. Na ukiona nimekuja hapa, najua mali mwanga inaelekea.
Mumeona tumesema vote blue. Kila rangi iko na maana yake. Na vote blue maana yake ni maisha, kufaulu.
Sasa ile ya kuamsha watu waende kupiga kura, hii inakuwa namna hii.
Jeshi ya baba, baba, sini wa baba, baba, jeshi ya baba.
It is in no
no doubt a high-stake election, and the stakes are even getting higher 8 days to the general election. Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga made visits to Nandi and Eldoret towns, grading Ruto's staff and making an appeal to the locals here to elect him as president. Odinga heads to Kiambu County tomorrow as he makes his last stretch of campaigns. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV, Huruma Grounds, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County.
Meanwhile, Agano Party presidential candidate David Maore has called upon his competitors to stop running divisive and insulting campaigns.
Well, speaking today at Sitam Valley Road Church in Nairobi, Maore also urged political leaders to respect the presidency.
Lower your temperatures. The office of the president is very important. It needs respect. So is the office of the deputy president. It's a respectable office. It's also wrong for leaders who are using corrupt means instead of speaking to people or persuading them. I condemn in the most highest terms the buying of ID cards that's happening. It is wrong. Stop doing that. Kenyans don't sell your IDs. On the 9th of August, Kenyans want to elect leaders. Kenyans generally are peaceful people. It's we the leaders who mislead them. I call upon us to stop doing that. This is an important week. Think twice before you cast your vote.
At the same time, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka took Azimio la Umoja campaigns to South Nyanza, terming the Raila Martha ticket as the best bet in addressing the current high cost of living.
Well, flanked by local leaders from the area, Kalonzo told off Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate William Ruto for propagating lies against him in his backyard, warning the DP to stick to his manifesto. The campaigns come 6 days before the official closure of the campaign period, with the entire Azimio la Umoja brigade expected to tour the Nyanza region later in the week.
Watu wengine nasema sababu ya vita huko ya Ukraine na Russia, vitu vingi, lakini tunajua mahali pesa ziko. Mimi nilikuwa vice president wa Kibaki. Si ni kweli? Raila alikuwa prime minister. Martha Karua alikuwa waziri wa justice. Hawa watu wanajua kuendesha nchi.
Tunaenda kutengeneza serikali ya kesho na wewe ndio utakuwa prime minister. Hiyo ni jambo la kwanza. Nitakuja kwa ofisi yako utusaidie vijana wetu wapate ajira huko. Hakuna shida. Baba anaenda kushinda na baba atakuwa baba ya Kenya yote. Kwa hivyo hakuna haja ya hasira, hakuna haja ya matusi, hakuna haja ya uchokozi.
Now, here's a story that is of no surprise. Maize meal shortage has hit the country as traders hoard the commodity to await the lapse of the 4-week subsidy window. Now, a spot check by Citizen Television established that the only available stock retailed at pre-subsidy price.
Well, blaming millers for the crisis, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya warned that the government will take stern action against millers hoarding maize flour, even after enjoying the levy waivers extended to them by the government.
10 days after the government and cereal millers signed a deal to lower the price of maize flour to 100 shillings from over 200 shillings for a 2-kilogram packet, the hunger crisis seems far from over. A spot check by Citizen TV established that shelves remained empty at most retail stores. The few stores which had stocks sold the commodity at over 200 shillings.
Hiyo walikuwa nasema ni ya 100, sasa wanatuzia 130. Na pia hiyo kupata ni ngumu. Mimi mara ya mwisho kununua ilikuwa last week. Yenye nimenunua juzi nimenunua 200.
Hiyo ya sonye mnasema mimi sijaiona. Nimekuwa nikibai 215, 220, 200. Yeah. The 200 is the cheapest.
Retailers attribute the shortage to laxity by millers to supply the stocks as directed.
I've worked in 2 supermarkets. This is my 3rd supermarket. Napata unga ya 230 iko, lakini ile affordable price is not there.
Mimi nilikuwa nimekujia soko. So vile imekosa itabidi nimechukua hostess. Jisiwezi lala njaa. Na unga ingine iko. So itabidi nimechukua tu hii.
a situation replicated across the country.
Tunatembea kwa maduka, tunaenda mbali tukitafuta unga ya 100 hatupati. Tunaomba serikali mtuelekeze penye unga iko, sisi tukule ugali.
Serikali itie maanani, iongee na kila kampuni ambayo inauza unga ya mahindi. Iteremshe kila kampuni, sio kampuni moja.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya acknowledged the crisis and warned of a crackdown on millers starting Monday.
Tumeteremsha bei, lakini kuna millers ambao wanaficha, na tumeanza kufanya assessment kule wanaficha. Kesho mtasikia kunao tunawalipa wateremshe na wanaficha, na tumejua ni wapi. Kwa hivyo tutawachukulia hatua, ndio kila nduka bei iwe ni shilingi 100 vile tumekubaliana.
The government announced that it had set aside 8 billion shillings for the Unga subsidy program, which is expected to run for a period of 4 weeks to cushion Kenyans from high food prices.
All right, switching gears altogether, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has officially launched the Nairobi Expressway after 2 months of trial.
Well, statistics released by the government show that the trial run was a success, with an estimated 45,000 vehicles using the road per day, surpassing the set target. Faisal Ahmed has more on the story.
President Uhuru Kenyatta officially commissioned the 27-kilometer expressway after a successful trial period. According to the president, the road has already surpassed their expectations, with over 45,000 motorists using the road on a daily basis.
The Nairobi Expressway has been open for trials, and it has already proved its worth. It has ushered in an era of reduced travel time and increased mobility, and an era of reduced congestion and enhanced productivity.
In case of need. The president defended infrastructure projects that were done under his tenure, saying that by developing the country's infrastructure, it will open up the country to more investments and bolster the country's hospitality sector.
Expressway lays open a better business environment for our country, which means more opportunities for our nation in tourism, in conferencing, in manufacturing, in hospitality, sectors that employ more than 3 million Kenyans directly and another 6 million indirectly.
Infrastructure CS James Macharia said that one of the main challenges that they encountered during the trial phase was speeding, with motorists driving at double the recommended speed limit. The CS also added that PSVs are still not allowed on the road.
Kenyans do not like observing speed limits. Along the expressway, every, say, 2 kilometers, there's a sign saying maximum 80 kilometers. But you find somebody driving at 140 kilometers per hour. This is what was causing an issue.
President Kenyatta also commissioned the revamped Nairobi Eastern Bypass Road. The 27.8-kilometer road was expanded from a single 2-lane road to a dual 4-lane carriageway at a cost of 12.5 billion shillings. The Eastern Bypass connects Mombasa Road to Thika Road at Kamakis, traversing through Embakasi, Utawala, Ruai and Ruiru towns. Faisal Ahmed, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Have you used the expressway?
Yes, I have, Jeff.
What do you think?
No, it's very efficient, convenient as well. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Very nice, huh?
Indeed. Do you keep to the speed limit?
Is there a speed limit?
Sam?
Time to take a break, or Sam rescue us?
I was waiting for that answer. But it's not coming. But quick question.
Go on, Sam.
How many counties do you think Kenya Kwanza visited this week?
Kenya Kwanza? I would say a dozen.
That's 12. Vicky, how many counties did Azimio visit this week?
Oh, man, probably within the same region of what Jeff said.
Okay, I'll have the answers and I'll give them to you.
Okay. Are we both wrong? Are we in the neighborhood?
One of you is wrong. The other one is within range.
Wow.
Okay.
Answers after the break on State of the Race.
Yeah. Sam Gitooks, Dr. Tom Wolf coming up. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff.
At Vicky Rubadiri.
At Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is Sunday Live. Sunday Live takes a break. We'll be back. In the meantime, here's what's coming up.
state of the race. Clock ticking to August 9th polls with 8 days to go.
Unataka kuwa fresh na confident siku nzima? Ongeza Downy Concentrate mwisho ukirinsi nguo. Teknolojia yake speciali itazuia harufu mbaya kushika nguo zako, huku ikitoa harufu freshi siku nzima.
Hata nikisweat, siku nzima niko freshi, niko Downy. Ijaribu sasa kwa 20 bob tu.
My name is Susan Kihika. Serving the community is what I live for. For 10 years, I have served the people of Nakuru. First as Speaker of the County Assembly, then as Senator. In my time serving in public office, I have seen the potential of the people of Nakuru. The people of Nakuru deserve a leader who will listen to them and address their needs. From access to clean water, a friendly and favorable business environment, easier access to credit, and subsidized farm input. I have the experience and the courage to guide this great county. Vote for me as the next governor of Nakuru County.
Stubborn dark marks? Stop. Discover the power of vitamin C with the new Garnier Even and Matte Booster Serum, a highly concentrated serum that deeply penetrates, clinically proven to reduce dark marks by 43%. Get even glowing skin from day 6. New Garnier Even and Matte Vitamin C Booster Serum by Garnier. Naturally.
Building the containers was by chance. This was more of a DIY. So I worked with local fundis. In fact, the main person here was the welder. The main challenge was space. Putting the space to be functional. I wanted this thing to be high quality, high end. So I can say the finish is expensive. I can't give an estimate, but I know it's a lot.
To watch this story and more, download the Citizen Digital app today.
Kenya's #1 app, Citizen Digital.
Kwa majina ni Morris Mochiri Nyaga aka Kolo. Nikiwa MCA Kilimari Ward nilihakikisha watu wangu wako na free ambulance, nikaweka rami njia ya Daras Matakare, Kiambodhe, Uchumi, tauni yote nikaweka Kabros, Mama Mboga, mtu wa bodaboda nikahakikisha kuna modern shed, dispensary ya Kangaru na Burvari nikamaliza, nikahakikisha vikundi za wamama wako na ng'ombe wa maziwa. Mkinichagua kama mjumbe wa Manyata, nitahakikisha kila boma iko na ng'ombe wa maziwa, kila boma iko na stima, pesa ya watu wazee inawafikia, kila ward ya Manyata constituency nitahakikisha iko na free ambulance. Nawaomba nikiwa nimenyenyekea, tarehe 9 munipatie kura zenyu, nibadilisha Manyata jinsi ambavyo nilibadilisha Kilimari Ward. Na ndiyo maana tunasema wirawarie masaa ni ya Kolo, toa jamu. Inawezekana.
New and improved Omo with a new look and unbeatable stain removal. Omo, unbeatable stain removal.
Bas, mnajua tumekuja juu ya nini?
Ulisema unataka mtu mwaminifu.
Mtu ambaye atakushughulikia.
Mtu ambaye hawezi kula fea yako.
Ningetaka tuajie maisha wapi?
Na wakati wa kuchagua ni sasa.
Kama si Anita, wacha ikae.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
this city deserves leadership. I am really an investment of this country. Mimi nahitaji sasa to give back but through service. Work with the national government to create the Nairobi commuter rail. Making markets in Nairobi exceed 200 will reverberate across every village in Kenya. Credit Guarantee Fund will be more than close to 1 billion shillings. Start a school feeding program in the informal settlement and low-income areas. A community chest where we all aggregate our philanthropy, our charity.
We are going to provide opportunities for people to do business here at ease.
Nairobi is endowed with a national park. We have to preserve that. That is unique.
Every ward, we are going to put a health facility there, which will be run 24 hours. Voting for Igathe Kaloki will deliver for the Nairobians.
Trust me as the governor of this great city county of Nairobi.
We asked Kenyan women to tell us what they look for in a lotion.
Warembo, ni nini muhimu kwenu mnaponunua body lotion?
Smoothness, scent, glow.
Leo tunaweka kwenye jaribio body lotion ya bei ghali na ya bei nafuu.
Ungenunua gani?
Inai-transform dry skin kuwa deeply nourished na kui-smoothen. Na fragrance nayo, wacha tu. Why pay more? Nunua nice and lovely body lotion. Ni bora zaidi kwa bei nafuu.
It's just nicer and lovelier. Chagua Kenya's #1 body lotion.
Your health with Aga Khan University Hospital, Nairobi.
Chest pain is one of the cardinal symptoms that could be caused by life-threatening conditions like heart attacks, large blood clots, rupture of the lung, rupture of the large aorta or the large blood vessel from the heart, pneumonia, and other things like cancer. Symptoms that suggest chest pain is life-threatening include sudden onset of breathlessness accompanying the chest pain, a very severe shearing, tearing chest pain in your chest pain that is accompanied with pressure around the throat, pressure around the chest, heaviness of the arm or tingling down the arm, coughing up blood, or a loss of consciousness or a feeling of impending doom. These features will suggest one needs to go to the accident and emergency unit urgently.
Aga Khan University Hospital, Nairobi. World-class care. Here and now.
Kwa majina ni Mama Millicent Nyaboke Omanga na wania kiti cha Nairobi Woman Rep kwa chama cha UDA. Ajenda yangu kuu ni masomo bora, kuboresha biashara, afya bora, kukuza usanii na michezo kwa vijana na uwakilishaji bora bungeni. Na kuomba wewe mkaaji wa Nairobi unipe kura yako tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8. Na mimi Mama Omanga sitakuangusha.
Welcome back. You're still watching Sunday Live, and it's down to just 8 days to the general election. Good evening and welcome to the State of the Race. My name is Sam Gituku and I'm in studio with Dr. Tom Wolf, a research analyst from TIFA Research. He just told me a few minutes ago that he has been observing Kenyan elections since 1969. Imagine that, 1969. Now, in just 6 days, the official campaigns will be closing, and you're talking about the campaign season coming to a close, and that will be on Saturday the 6th of August at 6 p.m. Another deadline is the 3rd of August, which should be the last day for polling companies to release results of any opinion polls relating to the general election. The law bars release of any opinion polls 5 days to the election. We will later look at some of the latest results with Tom Wolf here in studio as soon as we get to that. But let us begin by looking at this week. 2 presidential candidates honored an invitation to the presidential debates, while 2 turned down the invitation for diverse reasons. UDA's William Ruto faced a team of 2 seasoned journalists going into his reflections of the Jubilee administration, his appreciation of the current state of affairs, and what he would do were he to win the presidency in a week's time.
I believe that this is a Mama Mboga moment. And I believe I am the candidate with a plan to be able to get Kenya to the next level.
Agano Party's Wahiga More also debated alone, explaining his religious-based values and how he believes that would be the better prescription to the country's challenges.
But leadership, if you have occasion to look, and we read books here, the scripture, the man, one of the people I follow much, is one who was known as King David. And it says, when he was the president, the prime minister of the nation of Israel, it's written of him that he shepherded that nation according to integrity of heart and skillfulness of his hands. Leadership is about taking care, providing, making a way.
Now, he is Moro Wahiga, not the other way around. Now, Roots Party presidential candidate George Wajackoyah drove all the way to the Catholic University of Eastern Africa for an in-person decline of the invitation to attend the debate at the same venue. Talk of a manual cancellation. For Raila Odinga, he told the organizers that he could not debate DP Ruto, a man he said lacked shame, ethics or honor. This has become a point of political jabs between the two.
Aliambiwa akuje kwa debate akatoroka ama alikimbia akaingia kwa nyasi.
We will later take a look at some of the claims of the debates and fact-check them here on the show. But in the meantime, let's begin by looking at the campaign trail this week. And this has been one of the final 2 weeks of the presidential campaigns. And the two main presidential camps asserted their might in the counties. I want us to start by looking at where the Kenya Kwanza team toured at a record of at least 18 counties in 7 days, with campaigns in Nandi, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nyeri, Embu, Kirinyaga, Tharaka Nithi, Busia, Vihiga, and Kakamega, among other counties. Their message has been on getting out the vote to raise the voter turnout, especially from their strongholds.
Watu wa Uasin Gishu, kwa sababu hapa ni nyumbani, mimi nataka niwaombe, tulipiga kura last election, tukapata 86%. 14% hawakuonekana.
Voter turnout ni kumaanisha hakuna mtu hata mmoja aliye na kura hata kuja kupiga kura. Tunataka mtoke 100%.
On the other hand, the Azimio team covered at least 11 counties in the 7 days, touring Kiambu, Kajiado, Nairobi, Meru, Laikipia, Nyeri, Nakuru, Machakos, Narok, Nandi, and Uasin Gishu. Of course, some of those they visited at least 2 times. While at Kisuli grounds in Nakuru County, Raila Odinga unveiled a Firimbi movement to rally supporters to get out the vote. Some of these tours were the final visits to the counties like Nakuru, Machakos, and Uasin Gishu as they leave it to the voters.
Lakini kuna ile ikipigwa ni kama kupiga parapanda, kuamsha watu asubuhi waende wapige kura.
All right, Tom, let's engage a little bit on this. Of course, it's been 64 days of official campaigns and now remains about 6. So many things have been said to the electorate. And of course, as we count down the days, what, in your view, do you think will matter most in the remaining 6 days, if at all?
Well, on the one hand, we can never be sure there wouldn't be some surprise events, perhaps even some defections. I mean, we saw former Governor Mike Sonko jump from Wiper to UDA a couple of days ago. And I guess his case is still in court at some level. Whether that makes much of an impact, I'm not expecting or aware of any people who might have planned to defect at the last minute to get some attention and maybe bring some voters with them. That's one thing. But other than that, I think just what we've been seeing, and as you described, major efforts to maximize turnout in these various candidates' stronghold. I would just say that I've not seen research done, and maybe I should do it, to find out more about what motivates people to vote. There's 2 variables here. One is that I mentioned last week, given the fact that African societies are more communal or collective than our Wazungu ones, how much local pressure or even local assistance of getting people from their households to polling stations will there be, whether externally by politicians, political parties, or whether by people in the community themselves who have taken the responsibility of mobilizing votes. And the other thing is, if we look at the list of the candidates for the 6 positions, do you know, as a political reporter, in the place where you've registered, where people, or even in your family or friends, of the 6 positions, what's actually most important for these people in their lives on a daily basis for the next 5 years? Is it really the president, or might it be the MCA? Leave aside which of these individuals, candidates, however many there are for each position, how much in terms of resources they're putting in to get people out. But just in terms of the internal feeling, I think until the research is done, to ask people which of these positions is actually most important to you when they're filled in terms of your daily life, I think it's difficult to estimate exactly what the impact of any type of voter mobilization turnout campaign will be.
Okay, all right, and we'll shortly be looking at where they will be in those 6 days. In the meantime, Agano Party presidential candidate David More Waihiga and his running mate Ruth Mutua spent part of their time in Kiambu, Nyeri and Nairobi emphasizing the alternative offering. Listen.
Si wamekuwa katika uongozi? Kwa nini hawajapigana na ufisadi? Kwa nini hawajapea vijana hiyo 50 billion? Kwa nini hawajaleta hiyo elimu ya bure? Unajua katika maisha kuna wakati unakuja unabadilisha kifagio, si ndio? Kwa sababu ile kifagio ulitumia miaka 2, sasa haiwezi kusafisha.
Kubadilisha kifagio. In the meantime, Roots candidate Professor George Wajakoya, on the other hand, was partly in Nairobi and Narok counties explaining his case. Listen.
Kama mkono hapa kuna sisi huko, si ndio? Na kuna ndovu huko, si ndio? Na kuna meno ya ndovu huko, si ndio? Hiyo pesa inaendanga wapi? Hiyo pesa ya mama sio ya Masai. Wote kwa kaunti ya Narok.
Okay, now remember that a few weeks ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta returned to the campaign trail pitching for Odinga. This week, he has been speaking and explaining why he thinks his deputy William Ruto has been misleading the electorate and Ruto is not a happy man.
Hata hawa wengine ni wetu, lakini inaonekana they need time ya kutulia, si ndio? Kuacha matusi, kuacha spidi nyingi na kujua ya kwamba kazi na ukweli washinda matusi na chuki.
Wacha kuniletea maneno my friend. Wewe sukuma candidate yako bwana Kitendawili. Unaniongelea nini? Sijui kama tunaelewana. Mr. President, please stop talking about me. Talk about your candidate.
Well, Tom, it's been 2 to 3 years, very heavy, of course, on the political scene, but it's never gotten to these very direct and bare-knuckle attacks between the two gentlemen. How does this affect the voters, and in whose favor?
I really couldn't judge. I'll just say that as methodical as the DP is in his campaign strategy, I don't think his response to the president's comments is just spontaneous. I'm sure with his think tank, they have decided that this is the best approach to, counter it head on. But again, unless we did some post-election research, I wouldn't know. I mean, in some ways, I think with the barbs being exchanged between the president and the deputy, in a way it makes Raila, who's not in the middle of this, sort of look more sober and relaxed. And given the fact that most Kenyans, I think, are conservative in their personal relations, they might be put off a bit by this sort of mudslinging. I'm not sure. As I said initially, I can't imagine that the DP and his people haven't investigated what they think is the best way to respond. Of course, given the fact that, as we see in surveys, Kenyans are very unhappy with the status quo, especially with economic issues. And as we showed in our last poll, the overwhelming reason that those who are going to vote for Kenya Kwanza at the presidential level cited economic reasons of one specific type or another. So the DP is aware, as both candidates are, all candidates are, that Kenyans are pretty unhappy with the status quo. The president tried to address this in the last week with the announcement about the reduction in the price of unga. So at one way, he thinks if the president represents the status quo and is supporting my opponent, that helps me. But does it really?
We don't know.
Not sure.
Okay, all right, not sure is your answer. Now, in the remaining 6 days, the Azimio la Umoja movement hopes to hold rallies in 6 major towns, 1 county per day, with mega rallies at selected grounds. The Raila Odinga campaign returns to Kiambu County on Monday with an expected meeting at Kirigiti Stadium. Odinga will then head to Kisii County for a final pitch, followed by Bukhungu Stadium meeting in Kakamega County. In Kisumu, the Raila Karua campaign will hold the final pitch at the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium. Another mega rally is set for Tononoka grounds in Mombasa, and the final appeal to the country is scheduled for Saturday at the Moi International Sports Complex in Kasarani. Of course, that is here in Nairobi. For the Kenya Kwanza team, it is set to spend its final days in their strongholds, majorly in the Rift Valley and Mount Kenya regions. This will be in Uasin Gishu, Baringo, Laikipia, Nyandarua, Nakuru, Nyeri, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, and Kiambu. The final campaign rally is scheduled for Nyayo National Stadium in Nairobi on Saturday. And of course, Thomas, you look at this. Is there anything that we need to look out for, separate from what you've already spoken about at the final push?
Well, obviously, the two targets of final day campaigning is, first, as we just said, to maximize turnout in your strongholds. But at the same time, there could be a part of the country where you have 100% support, but there are not many voters. So you want to invest these precious remaining hours and days in places where the vote basket is the highest. And maybe also by looking at the data over the last 3 or 4 elections to see what the turnout rates have been. And of course, they vary depending on who the presidential candidates and their deputies are. We only know this is only 3rd election under the new constitution where the running mate is constitutionally designated. But I think it's pretty clear that these people will concentrate in the richest vote basket areas, and the number one being, of course, the mountain, where, according to our last survey and several others, the DP still has a major advantage, but that doesn't mean that an extra day or 2 on the mountain by Raila Odinga and Martha Karua can't yield its own benefits. As I said, I think last week, even going up 2 or 3% could make the difference in who wins the election. All right, and we will, of course, will be analyzing some of those numbers actually right now, because that's where we are headed. And this week, we got a new poll. I decided that it is not going to move with me. No, it is now. Of course, we know that this week TIFA Research released a new poll, and like I told you earlier on, the final day should be on the 3rd of August, being 5 days to the general election. And this was after interviewing about 2,056 respondents from household levels, and Tom will be telling us why that is important. The results show that Raila is still in the lead with 46.7% of popularity, followed closely by William Ruto, who now stands at 44.4%. But given that the margin of error is plus or minus 2.16%, then this clearly shows a neck-and-neck race with no clear path to 50% plus 1. But of course, Tom will be helping us look at that. But if you're to compare the coalitions, you will see that Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya, remains the more preferred alliance at 47% against Kenya Kwanza's 42%. But now let's quickly focus on how that popularity has been changing over the past 1 month. We're comparing between June and July. You look at Central Rift, for instance. In June, William Ruto had 63%, Raila Odinga had 20%. That has changed for William Ruto. Now it's at 83%. That's an increment of 20 points. For Raila, it has reduced by 5% or percentage points.
South Rift, June 33, now it's 34. South Rift is Narok and Kajiado counties.
That's right.
For Raila Odinga, it was 45, now it's risen to 60%. You look at the coast and you see that it's 26% to 37% over the past 1 month for William Ruto. For Raila Odinga, moving from 50 to 57% over the same period. Lower Eastern, this is Ukambani region majorly, 29% in June, 35% now for William Ruto. Raila Odinga has also gained from 46% to 58%. Mount Kenya region, 53%, from 53% for Ruto to 66%. That's quite a movement. Then for Raila Odinga, he has gained 3 percentage points, and I think this explains what you're saying, however small the percentage points may be. But when you look at this, look, the shift in Central Rift, the shift in Mount Kenya for William Ruto, for Raila Odinga are the coasts quite significant, and also the Lower Eastern. How do you explain that?
Well, first of all, to summarize, and I like these comparisons, you saw that overall, both candidates gained 5%. So notwithstanding these contrasts, the total amount of improvement, if I can say that, was an increase of 5% for each. That was mainly because the undecideds dropped in half. And as we had said either last week or the week before, the closer we get to the election, the more minds are concentrated. People make up their minds, and maybe they're also a little bit more willing to tell in a survey who they're going to vote for. And as I think I also said last time, I think, although I can't prove, that in a face-to-face household survey as the July ones, where interviewers are actually sitting in the presence of their respondents as opposed to being on the phone. But I think it shows that even if we know that for all of these 9 zones, as we call them, margins of error are much larger than for the survey as a whole.
Right.
The big increases for each of the candidates in different areas helps to explain why the total result was 5% for each. And also, given the fact there's still a total of 6% in that survey who didn't tell us who they're going to vote for, 5% undecided, 1% didn't respond. In a close election, where, as you said, the overall totals are within the margin of error, that could make the difference when they decide. Finally, and maybe equally important, we saw a decline by slightly more than half in the support for George Wajackoyah, from 4% last time to just 1.8% this time. And last time we were saying, we did the calculations with our calculator, that would almost necessitate a runoff. Now it's just on the verge. If you take out those undecideds and the no response 6%, if Wajackoyah and Mahiga don't get at least 3%, I would say, between them, then I think either Ruto or Odinga can take the Ugali home.
A first round. Of course, if you have to look at Nairobi, it's for Raila Odinga remains almost within the same. It's 58-59. For William Ruto, gained about 6 percentage points. Northern region, 55, dropped to 31%. Raila Odinga, 35-36. What happened here?
I think more of those undecideds up north decided to go for Raila. Remember, there's not a huge population there.
It doesn't change as much. 35%, 36%. So not much shift for Raila.
Yeah, let me just check that. Sorry.
Yeah, of course, as you check that, in Nyanza, you see that remains almost the same for William Ruto. For Raila Odinga, from 68% to 80%. Western region, 37%, down now to 26% for William Ruto, and up for Raila Odinga, 48% to 61%. You got an answer?
So that shows, basically, in Northern, most of those undecideds went to the deputy president. That's true.
Actually, they left him from 55 to...
I'm sorry.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll have to check that.
Okay.
He did lose 24% up north.
Yeah.
And undecideds in the north are now...
No, it's okay, Tom. You can check that out as we...
Oh!
You got
in
it.
the north, very interesting. We had 32% in this survey in the northern area who didn't answer the question.
Oh, 32%.
25% just kept quiet. And 7% said they were undecided. That's very, very interesting. Whether these people are, without casting aspersions, waiting to get final instructions from their clan or sub-clan leaders. We know about negotiated democracy up there, but that's a very interesting point which I hadn't flagged.
Okay.
But that explains where the numbers, where they went to. They haven't gone to Raila, as you said. They didn't answer the question.
Okay, but as we exit from this conversation then, we've seen from previous elections that sometimes what the pollsters show is not exactly the same as on the election day. What happens? And should we trust the pollsters?
Well, I might turn that around and have to trust the electoral management body. We've had some petitions. Last election was overthrown, nullified, even if it wasn't on grounds of wrong numbers. It was on process. But I have to say that at least the surveys that I was involved in 2007, we only had 2% separating Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki. And, you know, ECK chair, the late Samuel Kivuitu, said he wasn't sure who won. That was just outside of that survey's margin of error, and it was actually done almost through 3 weeks before the election. We didn't have a publication of polling act there.
Okay.
So I would say that poll, those results were just about as good as you'd get in an American or a UK election with pollsters. 2013, we had them in a statistical tie with about a 0.5% lead for Jubilee. The main deviation was that the combination of the votes of the 6 other candidates in 2013 was preventing either of them from getting over 50%. Again, just outside of the margin of error, but pretty close.
Okay.
And then last time, we did have a Jubilee winning with a 4 or 5% margin. So there was no real problem, at least where I was working at the time. But again, we know that sometimes people don't give, not all people give honest answers, whether they fear punishment if they say the wrong thing, even if they know we're from a private company. By and large, I'll just give you one other example. In 2002, there were a couple of polls, and they showed Kibaki winning with 65 or 67%.
Okay.
With around 72, 73%. He won with 3 or 4% less. More than the difference of these other polls to which you're referring. But nobody said the polls were wrong because the person who was identified as the winner still won.
Mwai Kibaki got 62% in that election.
62, yeah. And
Uhuru Kenyatta got 31%.
That's right.
Okay, all right. Let's move on because we still have so much to cover. And of course, over the past few weeks, both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza campaigns have spent enough days in Western counties. Recently, Odinga accused Bungoma County residents of deserting him, given recent opinion polls by Infotrack that showed Ruto marginally ahead of Raila. There are 5 counties clustered under Western region, that is Bungoma, Vihiga, Kakamega, Busia, and Trans Nzoia counties. Collectively, they have 2.61 million registered voters. In 2017, out of a voter turnout of 75.4%, President Kenyatta, then running with Ruto, garnered 22% of the vote. It's important to note that Western had a turnout lower than the national turnout, which was at 77.4%. Let's be more specific to the respective counties. And let's begin with Bungoma County, which has a voter population of 646,000. In 2017, 75.4% of voters then came out to vote. Uhuru scored 30% against Raila's 68%. Let's cross over to Trans Nzoia County. In that election, right now there are 398,000 registered voters, but in the 2017 election, the outcome, the voter turnout was 73.5%. In that election, Uhuru Kenyatta got 45% actually. Raila Odinga got 54%. To cross over to the other county, that is within Western region. This is Kakamega County. At the moment, it has 844,000 registered voters. This is the 4th largest county in terms of registered voters. This is behind Nairobi, Kiambu, and Nakuru. The outcome in 2017 was 74.9% voter turnout. Out of that, 11% went to Uhuru Kenyatta, 87% went to Raila Odinga. So it appears that it was a stronghold for Raila Odinga. The dynamics may be different now, especially if you look at the coalition partners. In Vihiga County, 310,000 are the registered voters now. The voter turnout was 74.1%. Raila got 89%. Uhuru Kenyatta got 9% in the 2017 election. And finally, let's take a look at Busia County, which has a voter population of 416,000. I just want to move 416,000. And Raila Odinga enjoys massive following there. In 2017, he scored 87% against Uhuru Kenyatta's 12%. Busia had the highest voter turnout in that region at 79.1%, slightly higher than the national rate. And of course, we know, Tom, that Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula were promised by Kenya Kwanza that they would get 30% of the government if they're able to marshal the numbers to the tune of 70% of the vote from Western. Can anybody at this point in time secure 70% of the Western vote to either side?
I think Raila Odinga has a better chance than the deputy president does. By the way, I just remembered those figures I was giving you mistakenly. I was thinking of the constitutional referendum in 2010.
Okay.
Sorry, the 69%.
Understood.
72%. I mean, in summary, what I think these figures show, as you remind us about 2017 in Western and also at the coast, that the deputy president's campaign is about twice as popular in Western as was the Jubilee campaign last time. At the coast, it's about 50% more popular. So you might say on that basis, there's no way he could lose. But when we look at the Mount Kenya area, Raila and Kalonzo had almost nothing last time. And as of now, Raila has and Martha Karua have about a quarter of the Mount Kenya vote. So to simplify things, I could say that this election will be decided on the basis of the answer to this question. Can the major gains that the DP has made in Coast and Western compared to last time when he was running as a deputy president with President Uhuru, can they be at least equally, if not overcompensated, on the mountain by gains by Odinga and Karua? Because the numbers are so different from last time, where Raila was 0 on the mountain, or basically 0, 4 or 5%, and now he's got a quarter, and yet the DP has made these inroads in Western. But I mean, just coming back to the former Deputy Prime Minister and short-time Vice President Musalia Mudavadi, I haven't had a chance to talk to these people, but I find that arrangement rather strange.
Okay.
I would have thought that the deal would have been, for every extra 10% of the vote you get, you'll get certain positions in government. Because from what I've seen, and I may have misread it, if they don't get 70%, they get nothing. I mean, if he brings in 65% of the vote, would he get nothing? I mean, I guess everything would depend, really, on whether the DP becomes the next president. And I'm sure he would share some of the spoils with these people, and the more vote they would bring in. But I guess the guarantee is, what would be really ironic, I guess, is if Musalia and Wetangula bring in 70% and the DP still loses the election. Then who's going to give them any positions?
And of course, it's important to note here, Tom, that 1% at the coast is totally different from 1% in Mount Kenya, given the number of votes there. Now, let's focus to a different issue. After the 3 weeks of presidential debate series, let's focus on some of the sentiments made by candidates at this stage and conduct a quick fact check. We begin with last Tuesday, DP William Ruto claimed that 15 million Kenyans have been listed on credit reference bureaus, meaning they have defaulted paying their loans and therefore considered risky clients. Listen.
We have 15 million Kenyans who today are blacklisted in CRB.
Now, here are the facts. We have had access to recent reports that show that up to 14 million accounts had been listed on the Credit Reference Bureau. Now, that is not equivalent to the number of account holders. Statistics will show that only about 3 million Kenyans have been listed as defaulters. According to the Kenya Editors Guild team of fact-checkers, the claims by Ruto was and still is misleading. To the next issue that we want to look at, on the same night, DP Ruto told Kenyans that there are 15 taxes on fuel. Listen.
50% almost of the cost of fuel in Kenya is taxes. I think it's time, as a country, we looked at, I think there are 15 different taxes on fuel.
Now, a quick look at the price limits as released by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority will show you that there are 2 taxes and 7 levies, a total of 9. Those charges account for 40% of the price of the fuel products. The verdict here, the claim by Ruto, is inaccurate. Another claim by the Deputy President on the same night, because he appeared to the debate, was on the state of domestic borrowing, which he says is between 70 and 80%. Listen.
You may want to know that almost 80% of all our borrowing is actually domestic, which means we are also hurting our own enterprises locally.
Now, a look at statistics by the Central Bank of Kenya shows that by May of this year, the country had a total of 8.5 trillion shillings of public debt. 4.2 trillion shillings was owed to the domestic market, accounting for 49.8%, way below the claim of 80%. 50.2% rather of the debt was external. However, in the current financial year, the government plans to borrow up to 862 billion shillings. Of that, 580 billion shillings will come from the domestic market, and that represents 67%, while the external borrowing will be 281 billion shillings, or 33%. The question is, did Ruto mean current financial year borrowing or the sum total of the current public debt? Because of this uncertainty, the verdict then is that Ruto was partly correct, given 67% is close to Ruto's lower margin of 70%. Let's turn to the other presidential candidate who turned up on that night. That is David More, who claimed that the current tax income from pay-as-you-earn is 460 billion shillings. He plans to reduce Kenyans' payee burden by 50%. Listen.
The amount of pay we get is 460 billion. 460 billion. So 50% will be 230. When I take that money and I put into the pockets of working Kenyans, I tell you as I stand here, it will perform wonders. Kenyans are looking for any extra shilling that they can get.
According to the latest figures from the KRA, out of the 2.03 trillion shillings of revenue that is collected in the just concluded financial year, 461.8 billion shillings came from pay-as-you-earn. The verdict, therefore, is that Mauro Wahiga was being accurate. Let's check again at what Ruto told the team of moderators there, and that is on the question of judiciary fund. Listen.
When I said I'm going to set up the judiciary fund, I think somebody decided to say, this fellow is pushing too hard. Let us implement this judiciary fund so that he loses this card. He cannot take it to the people of Kenya.
All right, it is true that DP Ruto has continuously promised to implement the judiciary fund. But was it because of his calls that it has now been operationalized? It is a fact that Chief Justice Martha Koome told a panel of interviewers in April last year that one of her key agenda would be to operationalize the judiciary fund. In February this year, Ruto began his push for operationalization of the fund. In his budget statement to the National Assembly in April this year, Treasury CS Ukuri Yatani told the House that the fund would be implemented at the start of the new financial year. On 24th of May, the Treasury released a circular to guide the process, establishing the Judiciary Fund Management Committee. This July, the fund has been operationalized by the government and will be steered by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Ann Amadi. Now, it is not clear what impact Ruto's push on the actions by government and the judiciary. And for that, the verdict is that Ruto's claim is unverifiable for the time being. To the deputy presidential debates now, let's focus on what Rigathi Gachagua of UDA claimed, that the country has a population of 6 million jobless young people. Listen.
We are inheriting 6 million young people who have no jobs. 14 million Kenyans are in CRB. We have such a huge task ahead of us.
You notice Rigathi Gachagua repeats the Ruto claim on how many Kenyans are listed on CRB. We have already dispensed with that as inaccurate. Now, according to the 2019 census, there were only 2.6 million jobless Kenyans, regardless of their ages. It is important to note that not all persons who are not working fall under unemployment rates. Remember, some of them are children and outside the labor force. For that, Gachagua's remarks were inaccurate. Let's focus on the other candidate on the podium of deputy presidential debates. It won't cooperate, but anyway, Azimio's Martha Karua told what the Constitution says. Listen.
Our Constitution dictates that we adopt a social market economy where social justice is in the forefront. That is why Article 46, not 47, talks of socio-economic rights.
Now, you need to know that Karua misquoted the Constitution, Article 46 of the Constitution, which I want to bring out here. There you have it. Is about consumer rights, that consumers have the right to goods and services of reasonable quality, to the information necessary for them to gain full benefit from goods and services, to the protection of their health, safety and economic interest, and to compensation for loss or injury arising from defects in goods or services. The verdict, therefore, is that Karua was inaccurate. Now, quickly on to the key races of the week. When we begin, recently, Azimio presidential candidate, that is Raila Odinga, was in Bungoma and midway after deal in the Kimilili parliamentary race. This is a race that has attracted 5 candidates: Suleiman Murunga, and an independent candidate, Brian Khaemba of DAPK, Peter Makoha of ODM, Didmas Baraza of UDA, and Erastus Wekesa of Jubilee. During Odinga's meeting, the ODM candidate shelved his ambition, throwing his weight behind Khaemba of DAPK. But of course, the other 4 gentlemen remain in the race. Focus on the Embu governorship race. There are 4 candidates, and of course, they include Emilio Kathuri of Jubilee, Lenny Kivuti of DEP, Dr. Peter Njuki from DP, and Cecily Mbarire of UDA. Let's cross to the Rift Valley, where you find Samburu governor's race. It has 4 candidates. They are Richard Leyagu of Safina Party, Daniel Lekupe, an independent candidate, Jonathan Leleit of UDA, Richard Lesiampe, who is a former principal secretary and Jubilee Party. Now crossing over to still another county that is within Rift Valley, that is Bomet County. The governor's race has attracted 4 candidates. They include Hilary Barachok of UDA, Bernard Mutai of ANC, Isaac Ruto of CCM, and Ruto Wet of GTAP Party. Now quickly to the hits and misses of the week, and today we have many. We will begin with what you have on screen. We begin with the angry exchanges that have dominated the airwaves past few days between President Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. Listen.
Wewe sasa unaanza kunithreaten mimi, ati utanifanya nini? Bora usiue watoto wangu, lakini mimi na wewe tafadhali tuheshimiane.
Kuna haja ya kuambia watu nataka kuua? Si mumenitusi karibu miaka 3. Kuna mtu amewaguza. Hiyo miaka 3 nimekuwa kwa kiti, si nilikuwa na uwezo. Sasa wakati naenda kupatiana serikali na sina uwezo, ndio niko na time ya kukutafuta. Piga story yako, uza sera zako, wachana na mimi. Mimi nafanya kazi yangu nimalize. Nyinyi muende muombe kura. Wananchi wakiwapatia sawa, wakiwanyima twende nyumbani pamoja. Shida iko wapi?
Now, 10 years ago, they asked Kenyans for their votes to steer this country to greater heights. This is how they have chosen. The two have chosen to end their term, whose full powers expire in exactly 8 days. A total miss. To something else, this week, we know that there are 2 candidates. The action by presidential candidates George Wajackoyah and Raila Odinga escaping the presidential debates denied Kenyans an opportunity to understand why they want to be president. And for that, that is a miss. Something else that has also been missing. This is UDA's deputy presidential candidate Rigathi Gachagua. This week lost his claim to more than 200 million shillings held in his accounts to the state. The High Court found that he had failed to convince the court how he secured the money. Rigathi, however, plans to appeal against that decision, and for now, that is a miss. But to the hit of the week, we're talking about it goes to the electoral body IEBC and the presidential team of agents from both Kenya Kwanza and Azimio la Umoja teams for speaking to each other and resolving disputes over some of the statutory reforms makes for stakeholders who can amicably resolve their concerns ahead of the election, and that is a hit of the week. And now, quickly looking at what's going on in the next few days, remember that we know that IEBC is set to finalize training of election officials at the lowest level, that is polling stations, and thereafter deploy election materials to all the counties and constituencies. Something else is about the home stretch that we are now within, that is when it comes to matters campaigns. The 16,000 candidates have up to Saturday to convince voters why they deserve their nod. And of course, this week too, we are expecting, that is in the new week, we are expecting the Inspector General of Police and his chain of command that they will be deploying police officers across the country to work with the IEBC in maintaining order at polling stations and secure the election process. And with that, I wish to thank our analyst of the night, that is Dr. Tom Wool, for making time for us.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of State of the Race tonight. And of course, I will see you again next week as we continue the countdown to the elections. My name is Sam Gituku, but Sunday Live takes a break, comes back after the break.
Election break. Education Ministry sets August the 6th as schools closing date.
Hey boss. Sinakwambia kura yangu ndo maisha yangu.
Unasema kura ni muhimu?
Nakwambia this time kwanza lazima niruke mapema na niende nipige kura. Tuwekali tupate recognition.
Mimi nitaamka mapema niende kupiga kura.
Lazima nipige kura.
Get out and vote. Vote Azimio Blue. Vote Baba and Martha. Get out to vote. Vote Blue.
Umeverify digital motor insurance certificate yako? Unaweza verify by dialing *352# from your mobile phone. Chagua verify certificate and then enter vehicle registration number na certificate number, ama unaweza download Aki verification app. Fungua app na uchague verification option. Hakikisha date expiry yenye iko kwa message ya verification inaambatana na yenye iko kwa certificate. Ikiwa insurance yako ni invalid ama dates haziambatani, piga ripoti kwa Aki kwa simu 0709640000 au email info@akinsure.com.
Nigeuliza wakaaji wa Kirinyaga, tarehe 9 mwezi ya 8, muamke mapema mchague Gavana CK. Kuchagua Gavana CK ni kuchagua uhaki, kuchagua maendeleo na kuchagua uongozi bila balaa. Tuna ile tunaita People's Manifesto. Katika hiyo manifesto tumeiweka siku 100 za kwanza ambao tutaangalia maneno ya hospitali. Tutahakikisha kwamba dawa zinapatikana. Tutahakikisha kwamba wale watu waliochaguliwa, waliofutwa kazi, ambao wanahitimu kufanyia Wakirinyaga, watu wa Kirinyaga kazi, tutawaleta ili tupatie watu wa Kirinyaga services. Kuchagua Gavana CK ni kuchagua maendeleo, kuchagua uhaki na kuchagua uongozi bila
Geisha Sheer and Almond Butter Soap has triple moisturizers to hydrate and nourish dry, cracked, and ashy skin. It hydrates, moisturizes, and nourishes, leaving you feeling pampered and cared for.
Historia ya doza chama kuzingiwa kwetu inanibamba cause time ya kwenda government offices uzungushwe left, right and center, the frustration. Saizi doza chama zinakuja hadi kwetu directly penye rules zetu zina apply na sisi wenyewe ndo tunazimake. Furthermore, mimi ndio official, so hakuna venye corrupt politicians atakuja kutuambia nonsense. Mimi na chama yangu tumejipanga.
Hasla ndio wetu, ndio wetu, ndio wetu. Hasla ndio wetu, ndio wetu, ndio wetu huyu.
Fair and Lovely is now Even and Lovely.
To get that even tone glow, what skin treatments do I need?
Spots, dark circles, sun darkening. You'll need even tone treatment to reduce all of these.
This. New Even and Lovely does all this.
New Even and Lovely. It reduces spots, dark patches, and sun darkening to give you even tone glowing skin. New Even and Lovely.
Majina yangu ni Joel Maina Cairo, nawania kiketi cha Nakuru Town East MP tiketi ya Jubilee.
Bwana Spika, hongera na heko. Mnaweza kukaa na mnasema pesa ya safari za nje, mnataka hiyo pesa iende kwa maendeleo. Hongera kwenu.
Tutakuja kuwaletea hali ya usalama, security, bursary ambayo tutai-enhance to 10,000 above. Vijana wetu tutafanya what we call empowerment. Wazee tutawakatia kadi za NHIF katika mpango wa Universal Health Coverage. Ninaomba kura yenu kwa unyenyekevu tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8. Cairo, Cairo, Cairo. Thank you very much.
What makes Domestos toilet cleaner unstoppable? Domestos does thousands of tests to make sure its thick bleach formula kills all known germs dead, keeping your home clean and safe from germs. Unstoppable Domestos kills all known germs dead.
Mpiga kura upo. IEBC imeweka mikakati kurahisisha utaratibu wa kupiga kura. Uingiapo kituoni, utahitajika kuwasilisha kitambulisho au pasipoti yako kwa karani wa IEBC. Baada ya kutambulishwa, utapewa karatasi 6 za kura zenye rangi tofauti za nyadhifa mbalimbali. Elekea kwenye sehemu iliyotengwa kupigia kura kwa siri na uweke alama moja tu kwa kila karatasi kumchagua kiongozi umtakaye. Kisha tumbukiza kila kura kwenye sanduku lenye kifuniko cha rangi sawa na kura yako. Mwishowe utapakwa wino kwenye kidole na uondoke kituoni. IEBC, your vote, your future.
Stubborn dark marks? Stop. Discover the power of vitamin C with the new Garnier Even and Matte Booster Serum. A highly concentrated serum that deeply penetrates, clinically proven to reduce dark marks by 43%. Get even glowing skin from day 6. New Garnier Even and Matte Vitamin C Booster Serum by Garnier. Naturally.
There is a new hope for Ebuya West, and his name is Kelly Walubengo. With a proven development record from his No Child Left Behind program to the free lunch program in schools and the introduction of free Wi-Fi to all schools, and he will ensure proper electricity distribution and improvement of the road infrastructure. The future is bright for Ebuya West on August 9th this year. Let's vote for change. Let's vote for Kelly Walubengo.
I am Kelly Walubengo, and I approve this message for a brighter Ebuya West.
Kwa majina ni Brother Enoch. Kupata wimbo huu I Surrender, kama wasikiza tuni yako, basi bonyeza *811 *279 #. Kumbuka, sikiza na Citizen ndio nyumbani kwa wasanii wote.
My name is Susan Kihika. Serving the community is what I live for. For 10 years, I have served the people of Nakuru. First as Speaker of the County Assembly, then as Senator. In my time serving in public office, I have seen the potential of the people of Nakuru. The people of Nakuru deserve a leader who will listen to them and address their needs. From access to clean water, a friendly and favorable business environment, easier access to credit, and subsidized farm input. I have the experience and the courage to guide this great county. Vote for me as the next governor of Nakuru County.
Mkenya halisi na ipenda nchi yangu, jukumu la kuilinda kutokana na corona nitalitekeleza. Nishachukua chanjo ili Kenya iwe chonjo, tailinda Kenya kishujaa. Suluhisho ni mimi na wewe, sote tupate chanjo ya corona ili Kenya tukue chonjo. Kenya tutakuwa chonjo, sote tukipata chanjo. Jilinde unilinde, sote tutakuwa sawa. Kenya tutakuwa chonjo, sote tukipata chanjo. Jilinde unilinde, sote tutakuwa sawa.
Pata chanjo, tuwe chonjo. Chanjo za corona ni salama na zapatikana kote nchini.
As a government-sponsored student, joining Mount Kenya University was the best decision I ever made.
With over 165 fully accredited programs and state-of-the-art learning facilities, you literally have the world in your hands in terms of career choice.
The learning is not only uninterrupted, but also supported through ICT. And within no time, you're done with your studies.
Make the right choice by joining Mount Kenya University.
Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities.
It is exactly 32 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Sunday Live here at Citizen Television. A sad story here. A family living in Butere, Kakamega County, is seeking justice for their 20-year-old kin who was discovered murdered, beheaded and mutilated in Barut, Nakuru Town West 2 weeks ago.
Well, police today recovered the head of the woman dumped in a pit latrine a few meters from where the body was found.
Now, Marianne Nyambura reports on the plight of this family even as 3 suspects remain in custody over the bizarre murder.
Kaptembo Police Station in Nakuru West. We find Beatrice Auma, a distraught mother whose daughter was found beheaded by unknown assailants in Barut area, Nakuru West, alongside a 48-year-old man. Their bodies had been dumped a few meters apart. According to Auma, 20-year-old Eunice Hasindu came to Nakuru in search of a job in June. Auma narrates how she made frantic calls to her daughter.
Tarehe 11 nikamtafuta kwa simu juu anapenda kuongea naye kila wakati nisikize tu, yani nimjulie hali. Hasa hivyo ilipofika tarehe 12 nikapata ni mteja.
The family that lives in Kakamega County has for the last few days camped in Nakuru in their quest to find their daughter. Reports that she was among those who were killed in Barut, leaving them in anguish.
Kaenda mochari kwanza kudhibitisha mwili yenye wamesema msichana na mtu mwingine ni ya nani. Kufika kwa msichana kweli hakuwa na kichwa. Kuangalia design yake kwa sababu mimi ndio nimemzaa, nilitangulia kuangalia mguu yake. Nikapata alama fulani iko kwa mguu. Nikadhibitisha kumbe huyu ni msichana wangu.
Eunice tena na yeye hiyo masaa hakuonekana, akakuwa toweka hivyo. Kutoweka nikajua sasa huyu sasa epeshwa, ameenda kuoleka. Sasa nikasema kama msichana ameenda kuoleka ni sawa.
3 suspects have since been arrested in connection to the killings. Even as detectives recovered the head of the 20-year-old girl in a pit latrine, about 4 kilometers from where her body was dumped.
Right now we've taken it to the mortuary, awaiting further analysis in terms of DNA and also confirmation that that particular head belongs to the body that was collected on the 13th. And from the investigations that we are conducting, we believe that this kind of an act could not have been conducted by 1 person or 2 people or 3. This must have been a group.
Detectives will be seeking to unravel the motive behind the murders of Eunice Hasindu and the 48-year-old man, both of whom had physical injuries when police recovered their bodies on July 13th. Marianne Nyambura, Citizen TV.
All right, listen to this next story. Schools countrywide will close from August the 6th to pave way for the August 9th general elections.
Well, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha said the schools will remain closed for 2 weeks and reopen on the 15th of August after election results are announced. Magoha also told politicians to keep off schools for the remaining campaign period to allow learners to cover the syllabus.
The principals, who are very few of them, who still have some children at home, to immediately bring them back, because we are breaking again on the 6th of next month for elections, and we shall not open until 15th. So it is very, very unfair to keep any child at home. If you want to engage the parents during the time that the children will be at home. Should there be a repeat election during my tenure, which I hope not, then we shall make sure that it may then have to mean that we may have to sit down as stakeholders and see whether it will be fair to examine the children if they will have lost a considerable amount of time. And I really pray that that does not happen, because these children have suffered enough.
Mzai, ndio. Umepangaje tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8?
Hujui ni holiday?
Ala.
Leo tarehe 8. Starehe.
Aje sasa mzai. Sikiza, tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 asubuhi na mapema ni kupigia baba the 5th kura.
Kabisa.
Universal Healthcare. Si kila mtu apate health.
Kabisa.
Hadi mabibi wako 5.
Awacha utani. Basi itabidi turuke mapema.
Mimi nakwambia kupiga kura ni papa.
Get out and vote. Vote Azimio Blue. Vote Baba and Martha. Get out to vote. Vote Blue.
exotic and exciting fragrances. Babe. Got you covered.
I'm sorry.
Tropical. Do your thing.
My name Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. I am vying for senator position in Nairobi County. I am kindly requesting you to vote for me so that together we can ensure our county is clean, we can have enough water in the taps, we can have good health centers, and we ensure that children get quality education. Our party is UDA, symbol is wheelbarrow. Make me your senator, you will never regret. Put tick Margaret Wanjiru, Senator.
Did you know that the Red Cross emblem is legally protected? That in Kenya, only the following are authorized to use the Red Cross emblem: the Kenya Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross, the International Federation of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent Societies, the medical units and military chaplains of the armed forces. Did you know that it is wrong for any other person or entity to use or imitate the Red Cross emblem? Naijua, naitambua, naiheshimu. Respect the Red Cross emblem.
Kama kawa.
Ugali mix mama.
Sawa. We mama boy. Angalia tu vile kwangu kumekauka. Siri yako ni nini? Utamu wa chakula ni unga wa 210. Ate unga ya 210. Hii nayo ni gani? Hiyo ni ya chapati. Hii nayo hapa ya ugali. Na sasa hii nitanunua wapi? Inapatikana kwa duka zote humu nchini. Haya, naenda kununua saa hii. Asante sana mama boy.
Your family's choice for maize meal and home baking flour. Unga wa 210.